Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, August 28th, 2014, and this is Turn2 episode 34 with Frodan Gnimsh. And today our guest feature is RDU from Romania. How's it going, Radu?
Very good. How is it going, Frodan?
It's doing good. Can you turn up your mic a little bit? Is he still soft on your? Because I think we were doing some testing and it seemed like it was a little soft.
Better now?
Yeah, okay.
That's be. Good. I don't know how to put it to be better. I hope it's pretty decent.
Perfect. It's perfect, RDU. Don't worry. We'll hopefully we just want to hear everything you have to say because before it was really far away and it was kind of soft.
Oh.
But excuse me, this is making the entire introduction very awkward in true Value Town format. Gnimsh, go ahead and save me and talk to me how you're doing, buddy.
Morning. Yeah, I'm doing good. So still a bit sleepy because I just woke up to be on a show and have an awesome discussion with you guys. So yeah, feeling pretty good, and I'm sure we'll have a good show today. How do you feel yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I apologize because I think my cam's not working, and as a result, I'm just having a static picture. But my internet's kind of volatile. But hopefully, my voice quality isn't going to be knocked off. I'm excited, Gnimsh, because today we have a great show. We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff. There's lots of news that's been coming over the past couple days. We have RDU on to talk about his recent 2 victories at the Rex Invitational and also the Heroes of Cards. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tournament meta and even just the meta of Hearthstone itself, including. Is the ban system, is it good? We're kind of evaluating it, as well as the state of hunters, and are they too strong or are they okay? And preview some other stuff. And don't forget that there's also going to be community question and answers at the end of the show for any of us. But definitely try to save all the chat spam to questions till the very end of the show, and we'll tackle all of them.
Wait, this time we have no new Naxxramas cards, so new cards at all. Oh my god. So we will have a lot of episodes without new cards.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna actually have to try. We actually have to try hard to prepare for this episode, as opposed to the previous 6 weeks where it was really easy content. Just what do you guys think about Gnimsh? Is this card good or not? And I think we still have lots to talk about though, so it doesn't really matter too much about the Gnimsh, although Gnimsh will still come up in discussion, I'm sure, with some of the new cards. So let's hammer this out in the very beginning of the show. We want to talk about some of the important news, the headlines that people have been discussing about recently. The first one is no surprise to many people in terms of what people have been seeing in the internet in recent days, is that Amazon has officially reported that they're acquiring Twitch with $970 million US dollars, that is, in cash, which is 20% of Amazon's current cash flow. They are reported to acquire Twitch in a letter submitted by CEO Emmett Shear, discussing thank you so much for everything that's been doing, and that they're going to be maintaining their offices, staff, and pretty much the same identity of Twitch. It's just that they're transferring ownership officially to Amazon, which is a surprise, considering that Google was the one that was rumored to buy it out for over $1 billion. And so the first question that's going to toss out immediately, what does this mean for Hearthstone community and streamers, considering that Twitch is the destination for Hearthstone and most other esports games? Gnimsh, why don't you lead off the discussion here?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask the question myself. It's I'm kind of shocked. Like, I haven't been following the news that much, so I was expecting that the Google deal is actually done. So Google actually bought Twitch, and Twitch and YouTube are already in a partnership. So we had those VODs being muted. We had the copyright music, and I felt like it's a done deal. It's like everything is set, and then I wake up with and see this funny Twitch and Amazon logo with the smiley, which is kind of like smiling at me from the front of my computer, and I'm like, okay, is this a joke? Is this actually a joke? So what happens now? So from my point, I know that there was some discussion in between players. What is better? Was Google better, or is Amazon better? Was the client service on both sides who had problems with the customer service and stuff? So I don't know. It's I have no idea what it means for Twitch and for Hearthstone. It's we discussed Google and YouTube in detail, but Amazon is kind of like a surprise for me. So my only contact with Amazon was just buying some stuff. It was always good, but I have no idea actually. What do you guys think?
All right, RDU. So basically, Gnimsh says he has no opinion on the matter as of now. RDU, do you have any kind of opinions on this?
Yes, I only hope that I will be able to stream with music because I don't like streaming without music. And I didn't like the fact that they muted the VODs. Like, I didn't think at that point that it would make such a great impact, but I get a lot of messages almost daily from people that watch VODs because they cannot catch the live stream, and they are complaining that I have the whole VOD muted because I run music, and they asked me to do it without music. I tried making the stream without music, and it wasn't that good anymore. Like, music is an important part of live stream, and I think they should keep it. So because Amazon acquired Twitch, I hope they will let us continue playing music on streams.
Just got to be more entertaining, bro, to make up for the lack of music and the absence of the silence. Just
Yeah.
kidding, man. I think you bring up a really good point. A lot of streamers will probably be happy about about Amazon being picked up, and it's not necessarily a Google conglomerate or monopoly controlling the entire live stream space. But you know, it's an interesting question because people thought that the first moves of copyright and muting the VODs was because of Google, right? And all the YouTube and DMCA, or, you know, especially in Germany, they'd be screwed because they thought that, you know, if YouTube took over, YouTube is blocked and censored not only a lot of the content, but even in other countries like Germany, for example, with Gemma or Gemma, don't know how to say it. They also block additional content. So people thought maybe one day Twitch would be unavailable in certain regions because of these kinds of content issues. That's not really the case anymore. All those rumors have been dispelled and that Amazon's picked it up. The question is, was Amazon the one putting it forward, right? Are they the ones forcing the muted VODs and preparing this way so that way if you listen to music, are you going and trying to buy that song off of things like Amazon Prime and their memberships and whatnot? It's an interesting set of questions, which we obviously don't have answers because we don't have the inside track, and this is not what the show's about. But it's just to kind of let people know that Hearthstone streamers are all across the brand are kind of curious and waiting to see what's going to go happen. So I think it's cool news. I don't really have too much else to report on it. I don't really know if it's better or worse than having Google acquire it because everyone's kind of worried about Amazon and can they protect and grow Twitch because they have other stuff like Cosmixology that wasn't exactly working out that well. I don't know if you guys know too much about this tech world and business journal type of news, but Amazon has kind of bumbled stuff in the past, so people are a little bit worried about that in the department with Twitch.
Well, people are always worried when the change is coming, and unfortunately, change is inevitable. The thing about music is that, on one hand, we might lose the VODs, but on the other hand, if they start muting actual streams, which I heard is possible. I heard it's happening, but I can't confirm that. But the thing is, like, you stream with music, and then in some countries, people can't hear your stream because it's muted, like live muted.
Yeah.
So that would be super weird, and it's also tough because on one side, like, I understand the copyright of music because, like, somebody really created it, they own it, and they want to earn money on it. But on the other hand, sometimes it's tough to actually recognize which music is copyrighted and which is not. So you might actually stream a game with an actual in-game music, and it happened on YouTube before. So you were streaming, like, I don't know, Bastion, and you have music from Bastion, and then you can't monetize the video because the music from Bastion is copyrighted, even though, like, the game is allows you to like monetize the content that you produce.
It's just silly. I mean, it's just archaic, outdated models that people use from the former music industry because, you know, royalties and rights, those things are, I mean, with internet and the accessibility of information and data, you get all kinds of publicity and cool kinds of advertisement for free with these things. And the fact is that you're guilty until proven innocent is also a little indicative of, you know, what kind of boundaries that these people are trespassing. So it really makes me sad when these kinds of copyright patents go through, or sorry, these patent copyright laws or whatever the terminology is. I'm not a legal professor or lawyer, attorney, etc. But, you know, it's really sad to see that these guys are turning down opportunities to be able to market their own products in a way. Hopefully Amazon can do that because things like Amazon Prime will allow you to access those things because I think they're getting more into media like videos and trying to compete with Netflix and now getting into video games. So hopefully something will come up. But until then, I'm not holding my breath because I feel like all these other companies are being pressured by a lot of the big suits that advertise for these laws, which really does suck. But we're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about other news that's going on in Hearthstone. We'll be moving on to the next subject. Let's talk about some Blizzard news. We'll rewind a little bit before we talk about some of the cool ones. The first is that last week on Value Town, which was the final episode produced by Chan Man, Rip and Pepperonis, is the fact that spectator mode has officially been in development, and that they're thinking about other stuff like co-op mode, maybe a way for you to play with a friend, and other kinds of things like arena tournaments and expansion sizes being up to 100 new cards bought through booster packs. When you hear these kinds of news, does that make you excited as a guy who enjoys playing Hearthstone, Gnimsh?
Oh yeah, it makes me really excited. So I was watching the interview with Mike, and it was pretty cool. So basically, the spectator mode definitely one of the things we really want to, and the community wants to. So we are shouting for the community for the spectator mode from the beginning. Co-op is definitely something pretty cool, and it was, I think, like we discussed it before on the show. It's something that's in World of Warcraft was called Two-Headed Ogre, and I think in Magic it's called Two-Headed Giant. It's a pretty cool format that you can use the cards in a really different way, because you can use the friendly cards for the minions of your like your friend who you're playing your team. So definitely a cool mode, and I'm sure it's possible. We even had some designs from the community, like how the board could look like if we had like a 2-player board 2-on-2. So that was definitely cool and exciting. Arena tournaments, it's okay. I'm not that excited myself because I'm more of a constructed ladder player. But I'm sure like arena players, they really want some more modes. They only have the standard arena thing. And I feel like constructed players, they have a lot more to do with the constructed decks. And arena tournaments is definitely something that will attract much part of the audience of Hearthstone. And a new expansion, wow, we just talked about Nax, and now we talk about new expansion. It's great. I really hope that
We need
they'll
to
have
be.
some.
We need
Oh
to
yeah,
be.
definitely. I really hope they will have a reasonable like release schedules, that the expansions will come maybe every 6 months or something, with the adventure mode in the middle, not like every 8 months or something. So, but definitely for now, they need to release the first one. Naxxramas was just released. It's great. So I'm really hyped for all the things, the new things.
Cool. RDU, any of these news pieces excite you in any way?
Yeah, I like observer mode idea. It would make organizing tournaments way more efficient, and I don't think co-op mode will be that good. I think it will be something very funny like Naxxramas, but not something that professional players can play with and host tournaments or something like that. I don't think they will. I think tournaments of Hearthstone will stick to one-on-one format and not 2-on-2. That would be like a little bit strange, because we all play this game because we like to play alone and not in teams like League of Legends or Dota, where
But don't
I
you
still
think that
prefer the one-on-one.
don't you feel like the social interaction though is also really fun when it comes to card games? If they allowed you to have cool customization options to play with your friends, like everyone keeps requesting the Hunter Clash Challenge for the ability to play against your friends. Everyone only had a deck of 30 web spinners.
Yeah, with your opponent, but not with somebody in your team. Like sometimes in card games, you want to not play in the team with somebody because he might get you down or something. I don't know the expression exactly.
True. Drag you down.
Yeah, drag you down. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, you clearly didn't watch a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh because some of Yugi and Joey's duels were absolutely epic. But that's another topic for another time. Yeah, I think you're completely right. By the way, the spectator mode is like the most important to us, obviously, because there's actually a survey that was done recently, just within the subreddit alone, and there was thousands of responses, and I think over 60% of the people who play Hearthstone and fill out this survey say they watch the tournaments, which is like a really big retention rate. Because if you think about how many people play, say like World of Tanks, for example, there's millions of accounts there, or even League of Legends, they boast like 20 million player accounts. And if they can get 60% of the viewer base in terms of people who actively engage, that'd be amazing. Now, of course, Hearthstone has millions of accounts too, and I don't think millions of people are watching. But it's the idea that a lot of people enjoy watching Hearthstone. It's a very spectator-friendly game because you have time to think. People enjoy it. It's simple enough to understand, and yet there's room for people to impress people with some of their plays. So I think this is the feature that excites me the most. I also really want arena tournaments to definitely become something viable. Maybe not necessarily the tournament system, but at least the idea that arena can be customized against an opponent that you can choose. Because I think it's cool to challenge other formats instead of just people net decking all the time and just going into open tournaments and getting far. But
you're saying that only because you will be able to draft more web spinners than 2 and play them in a competitive environment.
Absolutely. It's balanced. If you bring an entire deck of 30 web spinner against other person's 30 web spinners, it's a balanced game. But everyone's still playing Hunter, so I guess it's not as fun.
True.
Sure. By the way, Blizzard announced all these new details, and one of the newest ones, that's the newest recruits rather, who will be joining them in terms of discussing all those details, is Ryan Masterson, also known as Reels, as he is joining Blizzard as an associate game designer. He announced it yesterday via Twitter that it is hot off the presses that he will be joining their team and moving to Southern California very soon. Reels currently lives in Northern California-ish area, and he'll be moving down eventually to help join the team and try to discuss all things, whether it's balance or how card design functions, etc. He didn't give us too many details when I asked him personally off the record, but I think it's a good opportunity to talk about what this move symbolizes, because a lot of organizations in other different card games like Magic and I'm sure it happened in WoW TCG to a certain extent.
Oh, it did. It did.
Where you hire some of these pros, the high-level players and the highest-performing players to help design some of the card games. And I even made a little post as soon as I saw the news that I think Reels is probably one of the best candidates, if not the best candidate, for the job. And I'm personally very happy about it. What do you guys think? Gnimsh, you go first.
Okay, so it symbolizes a couple of things. First, I want to clear out that Reels probably, as far as I know, won't be able to compete in any Hearthstone tournaments unless it's specified that a Blizzard employee is actually taking part. So don't hold your breath for now. It's Reels is kind of gone from the competitive scene, but not really, because he will be behind the scenes working on a scene. So it's kind of sad, and I'm kind of sad and happy for him. I'm sad that we are losing one of the really good players, one of the best players in the world, who was just on the roll. Like he got really good score at the VGVN tournament. He was really getting there with the top 4 DreamHack. So I was expecting Reels to be a staple, like a person who's really like getting there all the time and winning tournaments. And this weekend, it's funny because he will be playing the VGVN tournament again, and he will be casting the collegiate tournament. So he is everywhere, and suddenly after this weekend he's gone from the scene. He will be working at Blizzard, and then he won't be able to play, he won't be able to cast. And depending on what Blizzard will actually want from Reels, he might just sit as a designer in the office and not show himself to the world. I'm sure he will be like around with the friends, but if he is not allowed for like PR statements and stuff, we won't be able to see him that much. We'll definitely see him behind the cards, because I'm sure like he will. I think he's starting like 1st of September or something. So he will. I'm sure he will immediately start working on the new set, on the new 100 cards that will be released. So he will be there in the shadows, kind of. I hope that he will like at some point come up and like talk to the players as well, kind of like Mike does and Ben. But yeah,
we might have Reels on the show to talk about some of the new expansion releases, and it'll be like old times.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. That would be so good.
Damn, we didn't get a chance to have Reels on new Turn2 in a long. I don't think we've had him on, right? So like now that he's behind Blizzard's PR wall, it's gonna be almost impossible to get him. We've lost.
Oh yeah,
him.
Definitely. It will be so funny if like we have an interview with Reels and we can't actually call Reels. We have to call like the Blizzard office, and then they set Reels and they have like snipers on him. Like if you say something wrong about the expansion, we eliminate you. Kind of.
I mean, you joke, but it's kind of like that in terms. Instead of snipers taking the job or life, they take the job. So it's happened before where Blizzard employees have leaked stuff and they've paid the ultimate price. And you know, Blizzard employees are also very. It's kind of like a little cult ring, man. They enjoy keeping secrets together because then they like huddle together, like we know things that other people don't. They're like, yeah, we're awesome, and they like being really secretive and teasing people about it. It's part of the perks of the job. So
Mr. Master
I'm
Son,
not
you
bitter at
breached
all.
the
By the
NDA.
way. Let's talk a little bit about Rios as a player as well, because it seems like his career has wrapped up. And RDU, I think you've matched up against Rios in your time a few times. I don't think anything comes
Yeah.
off the bat immediately, but just give me an impression about Rios and like his qualification for the job, because a lot of people may have heard his name, but they really don't know too much about his skill level. So just talk a little bit about that.
I think Reels is a player with a lot of insight on the game. Like he takes his time when he's playing. He's the like life coach. He thinks a lot when he plays his turns, and he almost never misplays, and that's really important for a professional player like him. And to be honest, I played versus him I think 2 times, and I lost both times. He was a really tough opponent, and there were some awesome sets between us, and good job for him for acquiring a job at Blizzard, and I hope he will. Well, I know that he will not release any overpowered card, knowing him and knowing how good he is at the game. And we can expect some nice cards to be released by him if he will do that kind of stuff.
I think it's important to note that Reels won't be the only person on the entire game design team. So it's not like a scapegoat to blame him for everything, where if something goes wrong, instead of saying thanks Blizzard, you say thanks Reels. It's not that easy to translate. He's one guy, he's one voice in a group of people. So as much as Reels will be there kind of representing the community and looking out for the players, his say isn't final. I'm sure there's plenty of times for Blizzard to kind of nerf things or change cards, but it seems like they at least line up with the identity of what's fun and what's anti-fun, because people have been crying for nerfs for a while.
I have a question for RDU, by the way. If Blizzard would actually approach you and say, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" What would you say?
I'm like 17. I don't think I can officially work for Blizzard.
It's like, wait, I have to get my parents' permission first because you're not legally allowed to work in the United States. I think
I'm not even allowed to play in the BlizzCon at the moment, so why would they offer me a job at them? So, well, yeah, I try as hard as possible.
You told me that you were working on that. Is that still a thing? Like you're not?
Yeah. We are. I am trying with MYM to get in. Maybe I will succeed. I don't know. I don't even care. I will try to win every other tournament, and maybe I'll get their attention and get allowed to play in the qualifiers.
Is it a problem? It's a problem with your local government, right, Romania, or is it just a problem with like Romania-U.S. relationships? I don't know.
I know. I don't really know. I think it's something like Romania-U.S. relationship. I don't know, to be honest. I did some research. I made a Reddit post. Now I just wait and see what happens.
Well, that's a shame considering how well you've performed, and I think you have about 4 or 5 seeds last time I checked, whether you're winning Zotax and winning HyperX Invitational, which, I mean, it's a good time to go into the next topic anyways. We have RDU on the show today, guys, because he's been winning everything he's been entering. And if he's not, he's making a hell of a run. People look at his VGVN #1 performance and say, well, okay, well, maybe RDU didn't win that one. But people kind of forgot that he came to the open bracket in that tournament. He placed top 4, or 3rd place, rather. And then because one of the invited seeds dropped out, he got invited as the next highest open qualifier player. So he wasn't an invite for that tournament, and he had to defeat like 7 or 8 opponents to get to that spot. So he's done it from both the invited and the open qualifier, and he's winning everything. So the first tournament let's talk about is the one that happened last weekend with the HyperX Invitational. That one had the most publicity by far. And RDU, you had a little bit of a tough time climbing through the losers bracket, but you seem to be able to get to the grand finals okay and win 2 best-of-5s. Talk a little bit about the tournament journey from your perspective. What went wrong early, and then how did you kind of recover to make such a run that you did?
Well, I prepared a lot for that tournament, unlike for VGVN, where I had like less than half a day to prepare, and that's why I lost. For HyperX tournament, I prepared a lot, and I thought I had the best strategy at the moment. And I lost the first series because I lost the Handlock versus Rogue game, which I was supposed to win like 70-80% of the time. And I was really pissed that I lost that matchup. And I tried my best in the second day, and everything worked as I expected to, and I won.
You tried your best. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not exactly the reason that you can give to, but I'm sure everybody's trying their best. But I know what you mean by that. It's just you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was
just
just
move
like
past.
concentrating, try harding, and I was sweating, and it was very intense. I played like 6 hours or 7 hours continuously, and in the same day before that, I had the Romanian ISF qualifiers, which I also won, and that motivated me, and I was pumped up to win the HyperX that day, even though I had to climb through tough opponents like Tides and then Reynad, Trump, and so on.
Well,
The
I feel like you've
youths
beat everybody
for
pretty
summer.
much.
Sorry.
Oh, but yeah, you had to. Did you forget the names of the other players as well?
No, Washema and Tude.
Yeah,
I don't really know
basically.
how to pronounce their names, but yeah, they were really good. Like I think more tournaments should have invitational, not invitational, qualifier spots, like at least 50-50, because a lot of people are there that don't get a chance, and if they get one chance, they will use it, unlike players that are invited all the time.
I agree. But I have still a question about this tournament because your answer was more really general. So can you actually run down the strategy you had for HyperX? Because we talked before, and you told me that for the other tournament you had a totally different strategy. Can you define the meta game for HyperX, and what did you think is the meta game, and what was your strategy, and how did you actually like counter stuff, and why do
Yeah.
you think like a strategy actually worked?
Well, I approached the two tournaments totally opposite. For HyperX, I went with Bun Hunter all the way and played decks that are really good, not counting the Hunter deck. Like Tude did and got to the finals, he played free control decks plus Hunter. Hunter always banned, so he relied on his other free controls decks. Well, I chose Handlock, full warrior control, and Miracle Rogue. I think Miracle Rogue and Handlock have a good chance and are really favorite to win any control matchup. And control and full control warrior with all the legendaries. I named that deck like pay to no, free to pay, because it had all the good legendaries. And I think that deck was also favorite in the control matchup because I expected a lot of people to come up with control decks, and that's the case. That happened. No
And
rush decks, no nothing.
you had great success with the handlock.
Yeah.
So what was the reasoning behind handlock? And do you feel like handlock was really the strongest deck coming to the tournament where Reynard, for example, was hoping that nobody will play handlock, and he actually got destroyed by handlocks?
Well, at IM Shenzhen, for example, Handlock was still good, and a lot of people played that, including myself. The problem of Handlock was the mana curve. Like I played only one Argus as I played in HyperX, but I had one Sanjin and one Sunwalker to smoothen out the curve. But since Belcher came out, you just have to play double Belcher, and 4+6 divided by 2, it's 5. So Belcher fits exactly into the mana curve, replaces Senjin plus Sunwalker, and makes the deck way more stable and way better versus any other deck, excepting Hunter, which completely obliterates the handlock. And I don't think Reynad thought that in that way, because he saw no handlock on the ladder, so he assumed it's a bad deck. But I said to myself, like, what is the best deck if we exclude Hunter? Handlock is really good. What does this lose to? It loses to BGH decks. Who plays BGH? Nobody. Okay, Handlock is the best.
Sure, and it didn't seem like many people were bringing Shaman to the table either, which still has a
Yeah,
good matchup, but people seem to have forgotten it amidst all the control, right? Everyone was playing super greedy control decks.
well, even versus Shaman, which is considered a really hard matchup, if you play with double Hellfire or double Shadow Flame and you get them in a position where they overextend, you can just get them off guard, clear their board, and play Giants, and if they have no answer, you just win the game. Or you can also win with the Leroy combo, 20 damage combo. So I think
Sure.
versus Shaman is not that bad of a matchup unless they run Lava Burst. Like, Lava Burst completely kills you. They can just rush you down and then bam, Lava Burst. Hello.
Yeah, it's like exactly what Kill Command does for Hunter, anyways. It makes
Yeah.
total sense. RDU, talk a little bit about the matchup with Reynad. It seemed like you took that one the most celebratory opposed to everything else. I mean, you were happy after you beat Twit in the finals, But that seemed to be just the icing on the cake versus the 3-0 revenge against Reina. I think people want to address that a little bit as you were blowing salt to the camera. Is that just for show, or does that match mean a little bit more to you than just what people think?
Well, before he attacked me for no reason, I really respected Reynad, and I didn't expect him to attack me for no reason. And from there on, I considered him not friendly, and I wanted just to cover him with salt or something like that, something meaningful. Like, I just wanted to show him that I am a good player and like what he says, and I think I proved that, winning with 3-0. And if he didn't consider handlock for a good tournament where they have ban, I think I am the good player and not him. So I think he made a big mistake not covering his decks against handlock.
Revenge is best served cold with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Nice,
But
Gnimsh.
yeah.
Poetic.
If he would have not been that unfriendly, I wouldn't have had anything with him. I would just respect him like the other opponents. Like, the other guys in the tournament also said Reynad was like a little bit salty. He didn't say GG and stuff like that. To me, he said GG and well played. He was not that salty as before, but other people in the tournaments and even some organizers from other tournaments told me that he's a little bit too salty with his opponents. And a lot of people don't like that, even if some of his fanatical viewers like that.
Yeah, I was
The-
about to comment
yeah.
about that. It seemed like you guys, at least from the Skype chat, were very cordial and, saying that
Yeah.
you guys were saying GGs and like good luck, have fun. So I wasn't sure if you guys were just still like playing into the story a little bit of like, oh, it's RDU and Reynad again. I know me and Admirable were playing it up a lot. And then, of course, you 3-0'd and made it completely anticlimactic. But I wasn't sure if there was like, you guys actually moved on, you guys are actually still friends, or, or do you guys still have this budding rivalry? I was just kind of curious about it.
Well, I don't have anything with him at the moment, but if he starts attacking me again, I have to respond. I will not stay silent. But if he doesn't say anything, I'm okay with him, but not friends. Like, yeah, just
Sure,
like player to player.
Gotcha. Yeah, competitors.
Yeah, competitors.
Cool. Let's wrap up the HyperX Invitational talk a little bit and talk about Valsema and Toyota a little bit more. They are the stories of the tournament. I think everyone recognizes Trump did pretty well too, and that some of the other invite people might have disappointed, but those just happen, right? People have good runs and bad runs, but specifically that these open bracket people placed top 3, and not many people knew too much about them. From here, how do these guys kind of continue to compound their success? That's a really good question. And RDU, I'm really glad you're here because you're a guy that came in through like an open bracket of DreamHack Bucharest. In fact, you started off the train by defeating Gnimsh on stream, eliminating him in the first round of 128 at DreamHack Bucharest before you placed top 4. And then even then, you still weren't getting recognition. You had to apply to DreamHack Summer to even get a seed. And even then, it was still like, well, who was this RDU guy who got a seed in DreamHack Summer? So how do guys like Valsema and Toyota and everyone else who's watching and aspiring to be a pro player invited to the scene, how do they kind of use this success to their benefit to continue getting tournament invites and presents?
Well, if you asked me that question a little bit like 1 month ago, I would have answered start streaming and people will watch you. But at the moment, you don't really get that many viewers if you start streaming after you won a tournament because there are a lot of people that already stream and have all the viewers at them. So it's really hard to start getting your name out by streaming. So I would suggest them to go into another open tournament or something like that HyperX where they can qualify. And if they qualify again, people say, oh my god, this guy is good. Like Sixo did in VGVN. He qualified 2 times. And he gets a lot of respect right now. Maybe he will get invited next time. Like qualifying 2 times in a row for the same tournament is really nice, and it shows that you have determination. Also, I wanted to say that people like Washema and Dude, when they qualified, they had something extra. Like, they were not like us, the invited players. They were like, I have to prove myself. I have to win this tournament. I will try my best, even more than I can. I will try hard beyond the limits. I have to show the world that I'm good. Like, that's the mentality you have to use. And this helps a lot.
Damn, it's like Rock Lee from Naruto. Gnimsh, can you make some comments and follow up? Because it seems like, and if we can be a little honest here, Gnimsh, You're more of the invite type of list, and for good reason. You have your tournament wins and your own accolades and appraisal for that. But follow-up comments here from RDU, because you're on the opposite side of the spectrum where you're used to getting invites to tournaments and placing well. Do you kind of agree with RDU saying?
Well, RDU mentioned a couple of interesting points. It's well, the first thing is about getting your name out there. So we know Vursema from Lucky Draw and Thuid from Innovation actually made it, and also like Sixo. Those people they are at they are knocking to the door of the pros. And right now, what do you do? And I was talking with Sixo about it as well, like because I want Sixo to like be more popular, to tell people, hey, this guy is just insane. Like he's qualifying every time. He's getting first for like Legend 1 almost every season. So how do you get people to actually recognize those people and their achievements? And I don't have a good answer for them. It's lately we would say like start streaming, maybe start doing content, maybe just write articles, make videos. But this is not something that those players do. It's like they just want to play the game and they just want to be the best, and that's it. So in Hearthstone we have this kind of weird equilibrium between being a good player and being a personality as well. So for example, RDU has a personality. He's here. We talk to him, and he has a lot to say, and also a cool stories as well. But some players don't want to do this. They just want to play the game and be the best at it. So it's hard. It's hard because at some point people will recognize those players, but to get like a big fan base like Amaz or Trump, it's pretty difficult, and really you have to be a personality. So right now I'd say also like just play the game, try your best, and just start winning. Like when people recognize you, will also get an edge in those qualifiers, because if you are a name and then people face you, they're like, oh, this Vursema, he won a tournament, so I'm probably losing to him. And then you have kind of like an edge, and those people lose to you because they have kind of like a disadvantage, because they think they will lose for sure. So this is something that helps people to win consistently, and I'm sure RDU has it as well. Like when people face RDU, they're like, oh my god, this is this guy who won DreamHack. Like he's winning everything. I have no chance. Like I better win against the next guy. So yeah, that's basically it. And also the second point that RDU mentioned was pretty interesting, with that they came to the HyperX tournament with this motivation and determination that, hey, I have to win, I have to do this. To be honest, I feel like on the other hand, the invited players, they might be like pretty like too relaxed, because they know, hey, I don't really have to work for it, so I will just take those decks and try my best. Where RDU is a player who actually gets an invite and then he works his ass off basically, and preparing those strategies and stuff. And then that's where he shines, because of those strategies, and executes the game pretty well. Like he doesn't make any mistakes, and that's why he's winning all the events. So we have a pretty interesting environment in here with regards to like the invited players, qualified players, and overall tournament results.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, and just kind of bust the balls with some of the players here, and just prove that I'm not really biased, and at least when I'm coming on these shows like this, is that a lot of players are phoning it in when they're invited, especially when there's big tournaments on the horizon. There's some players who try to, in a way, mislead their opponents by taking it easy on certain tournaments that are a little bit weaker. Like say it's like a Zotac, or like some of these other cups like Gosu cups that are great for the community, but not that important compared to like a big tournament like HyperX Invitational. They're gonna take it a lot easier overall. And I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying that these tournaments specifically, but there are pros that I talk to, and I'm just wondering, like, you're really not trying. You're only practicing like a couple hours a day, and that's a little bit of a underestimation. Some people even sell themselves that way, right? Like Backspace on Deck Wars is like, well, I've played like 3 hours in the past month, and yet I still get top 100 legend, which is cool. You're a really talented player, but I think a lot of these players, they need more desire, and very soon they're going to get replaced by players who try hard, like RDU, like Tice, like Hyped. These are the guys, they have one thing in common, is that they've played thousands of games of Hearthstone in recent memory alone, and they're working their way to the top, and they're starting to take the invite spots from other people. And Gnimsh, you even admitted to me that you and some of the people like they don't even take it that seriously sometimes because they feel not motivated. You have to be careful. You have to watch your back because as much as you guys are talented players, these people who are trying hard, Voshsema, Toida, and whoever else comes through the ranks, they're going to be gunning for your spot.
Oh yeah, certainly. So basically, you have to train all the time. Right now, we have new cards as well, so the metagame has flipped. And well, people who will not play and playtest and just train, they will be left behind. And it's really easy to actually well, it's not easy to get to the top, but it's easy to actually fall down after getting to the top and being one of the pro players. You just kind of burn out, and then you're just run over by the players who are really motivated, dedicated, and love the game as much as you, but they love playing. So definitely this is a good environment for competition because it's not like the top players will always stay at the top, but you can actually climb there and make your spots and be the best.
Yeah, and don't worry, man. If anything ever comes out, you're always welcome next to the casting bench with me. If you feel like competing isn't really, if you don't want to put the 8 to 10 hours of preparation or whatever is the magic number, I'm not exactly sure. But if you figure out that it's not for you, then you're always welcome to join me on the casting booth. Let's talk a little bit, by the way, before we get off topic of too much about invites and qualified players, which we all agree, the more qualified players, the better. Let's talk a little bit about also RDU's second win here at Heroes of Cards. This tournament was hosted by Hitbox TV with Chaos, who does a bunch of other League of Legends productions. And it was an 8-man invitational with a few names that you're not used to and a few names you are used to. And then it got all the way to the finals where RDU played against Masan, which is cool because I haven't seen Masan with a really big finish yet, and top 2 was really nice. And RDU had a little bit of finals controversy in that again, and I want to kind of use this to clear the air and try to ask what happened because I did miss the finals. I watched a little bit of the Hitbox stream, which seemed unstable at times and had some production issues, but that's bound to happen when we don't have spectator mode. The issue is that apparently, RDU, you disconnected in the finals somewhere, and then you had to regame when it seemed like it could have been a win for Masan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was turn 4 in the game, and Masan played a Knife Juggler, and I had a staying card in the air bug, and I didn't see that bug often. It never happened to me before, and I didn't know that Masan told me afterwards that if I reconnected really fast, I would have still been in the game, but what's with that glasses name? Well,
just continue.
Yeah. So people just started, oh my god, he's cheating again, but I had SI7 answer to his Knife Juggler. I think I was really in the game and I could really win that game. But people are just trying to find every single piece to hate on me. My best deck of that tournament was the Druid. I didn't even play that deck in the finals. I don't understand why people jumped so hard. It was just turn 4. Masan offered to regame afterwards, and so did Organizer said. I was okay even if I lost the game, just because of people starting out afterwards. I said I could give the game. I mean, it was not a problem for me to give the game just because people want to hate on me that much. It was not a problem. I still had the best deck left there, so it was not a problem.
Did you have Leroy in your Druid deck?
Oh,
just
no.
check. Just check.
Wow,
well,
soon.
it's your teammate's Druid deck, so you should know it.
The Strife Crow Druid deck. Cool.
Yeah, Strife Crow's Druid deck. Shout out to him.
People actually think it's Colento's deck. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, Colento changed maybe 2 cards, but definitely the new Druid. We are talking about the new Druid with Shades of Naxxramas and Oozes. Kind of like Token, but without Violet Teachers and Power of the Wild. So
yeah, it relies around Argus. Every card in that deck is so damn good in combination with Argus. You just play Argus Fuse, extraordinary. Argus Shade, very good. Every card in that deck synergizes perfectly with Argus. Argus makes that deck perfectly. I figured out that deck is good for 2 reasons. I saw Sema playing something like that with Argent Commanders at Hyperix and still winning. And I said, Argent Commanders are pretty bad. They're slow. What can I and Argent Squire also. And I said, these cards, if you replace them, it can lead to such a good deck. And then second day I was watching Colento's stream and he was playing the same deck with some cards changed, exactly the bad cards from Wash Sema's deck. And I was like, oh my god, this deck is so insane. And it worked out. It's a very good deck, but it has one counter. It loses to Warlock almost all the time. Like Zook destroys that deck. Handlock beat it if you taunt up. Ram Druid can also beat it. Like taunt heavy decks usually beat that deck, unless you draw the Keeper of the Grove to silence the taunts or Savager to just push the damage. And in the Heroes of Cards tournament, I had an extraordinary game against Trump. The second game, it was the most insane game I think I ever played. Just
Really?
rewatch it, and yeah.
Oh man, I have to
It-
miss it
it was
because
very
your
insane.
finals versus Toyota was also pretty insane. By turn
Yeah.
6, there were 3 Ragnaros played.
Oh
And,
yeah, sick
yeah.
final.
And that was like a turn 4 double innervate rag. So that was probably the most insane game I've seen in recent memory. And you're saying this one was better?
I
Gosh.
think they were like almost the same, but the Tude game had a such high intensity, and either one of us could win that game. We both deserved to win that tournament, but only one of us would win. And people started on Reddit hating on me again, like, "Oh my God, this locker." But I played very good every single turn. What can I do? Stop from having good RNG? I didn't make Tude play the Ragnaros on turn 4. It was his call. And also, Tio told me that people hate too much on Reddit. Like, people should stop. It's a card game. We made the best calls. We were under pressure. We were like, I was playing for 7 hours continuously. It was like 4 in the morning, and it was hard. You obviously do some little mistakes, even in tournaments, but people don't understand that. That's the problem. Like, when you play in a tournament on stream and play a lot at the bad hour for you, it's obviously way harder. And
Actually,
Well, I'm
Actually, the
gonna
thing is, like, the
save
more-
you you're crucifying yourself a little bit here, RDU, because it's a little unfair to peg this on the entire community. There's a small portion of the community
yeah.
that likes feeding the flames. There's also a large portion of the community that supports you, and they're always like, well, it's time that we stop making these RDU cheated jokes because, well, A, they're old and not really true at this point, and then B, the fact is your consistency is outstanding. You're number 1 ranked at Ghost Gamers again. Your elo is just unprecedented at this point. And I don't even know how you win this percentages, but it shows that your preparation that's really good.
what's your percentage, by the way? Is it like 77% win rate or something like that?
as big as Strife Scrolls, but I think I have more games and at more important tournaments, some of them. But yeah, as same as Strife Scrolls, like we won consistently. And I don't think you can win that consistently without being good at the game and just being lucky, as people say. Like, even when I'm not lucky and I have a bad hand, I continue to play it. Like, of course, for example, let me explain about the hand lock. Every single game, almost, I had a Twilight Drake and a Giant. It happened to me to not have it, and that's where a good player stands out. I didn't have it in the last game of the finals when Tio just played the Rug. If he just played it slowly, I had no play for turn 4. Of course, he couldn't know that. He could have gotten an idea of that because I coined out the life tap thing you do only if you have a bad hand. But yeah, he just made a play and gave me a play by playing the Ragnaros. I had no other play. And also, you can watch some of my games where I didn't have Auctioneer in the starting hand and I still won them by stalling the game. It's not. Some people told me that I top decked the Leroy versus, I think, Tides of Time when I had like 7 cards remaining. Like, come on, people, 7 cards. I drew already 23. It's not the top deck. It's like the.
I think you should definitely stop being concerned about this, because the better you are, the more popular you are, the jokes will be funnier about, Hi Mom and Leroy. And definitely also like the trolls on Reddit. The more concerned you are, the more people will be happy to actually like type stuff that will annoy you, because they will know that, hey, I typed this thing and RDU will read it and he will be probably pissed about this. So
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely just do your thing. It's like continue preparing for the tournaments as you do and continue winning, because it's really a pleasure to watch your games. I was watching both. I was watching the HyperX, and then today I was watching the VODs of the Heroes of Cards, and I really enjoy your games. Like you have a cool thought process, and you're not making mistakes. So it's pretty good. And by the way, the Heroes of Cards top 3 had all TSM members. So
Yeah,
TSM
well,
is getting
when I
strong.
was in top 4, I was with other 3 big popular streamers, Amaz, Masan, and Trump, and I was like, guys, I'm the only one here that is not such a popular streamer.
Well, shout out to Trump actually, because he's getting better and
Yeah,
better. Like a lot of
Trump
people.
is really good.
Yeah,
Some
it's
people, a lot of people hate on Trump as well as they hate on me, and they say, "Oh, Trump is really bad," but he's not that bad. Like I challenge the haters to play versus Trump, and they will see that they will get stomped. They say,
That's
"Oh my God, Trump is just a streamer, just an arena player," and when they will play against Trump, they will realize how good of a player he really is, and
yeah,
how
certainly. I
yeah.
mean, a lot of obviously he has a lot of fanboys that will always say that he's good, but it's funny because a lot of people expect him to fail when he's entering the tournaments. But I think he really showed that both HyperX and Heroes of Cards that Trump is really a contender, and I think he really is. Like he was playing in a lot of tournaments before. He got that experience. He didn't have that experience, but he got it, and he's really motivated. And now being on TSM, I believe he's playtesting a lot, and basically he's playing a lot of Hearthstone. He just understands the game, and he had some decent decks. He's also ready to experiment. Like a lot of players are stuck with the kind of like net decks, like the best builds. But Trump is one of those players that is able to actually pull some surprises like Hungry Crab and stuff, and getting some personal touch to his decks. So I'd say like he's definitely also an enjoyable player to watch at the tournaments, and a contender. And if Trump wins the next tournament, I won't be surprised.
a little fun side story, by the way. I like doing these. If you follow my Reddit account, I like posting stories about players that I see. We were at Fight Night. I think it was the second time we were there. Trump was with Liquid Value, and Doggy House was there. And I remember very clearly that the dominant decks were like Control, Giants, Paladin, Freeze Mage. No, Freeze Mage was just starting to get nerfed, right? Yeah, it was the patch hit like days before. You guys were flying towards Berlin when the patch hit, right? And it nerfed Freeze Mage. Was that right, Gnimsh? You remember? And
Yeah,
then
it's like they were always patching on the when we were on the
yeah, it
plane.
was crazy. And so like no one was playing Freeze Mage anymore, and yet Trump still wanted to play Mage, and yet the entire meta was defined around I don't remember exactly. It was like Druid, mid-range Druid with like Strife Crows, and then everyone was playing Control Paladin. Zoo was starting to come out too and be really popular, so people were playing that. And then Trump was like, "I'm just gonna play Mage," and then and all his Liquid Value looked at him like, "You sure that's a good idea?" And then they started building a Freeze Mage for him. He's like, "No, I'm gonna play like a mid-range Control Mage," and he put like Polymorph and Ysera and like basically a lot of like his free-to-play mage that he first did back on his stream. And then all the I was like, well, if you want to do this, okay. And it's funny because a lot of them don't want to say mean things, like because Monk and Strifeco are good guys. They don't want to be like, well, Trump, I don't think this is good. You're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Like, no one's going to call him out on that. And then Trump's just like sat there and was like, yeah, I'm going to play mage because he's just going to play it like arena. And then he actually won. And like, that was a deck that actually allowed him to win his first series in Fight Night. And the rest of the time he was playing decks that like the group decided was really good. And, it's a little fun tidbit that Trump, if he uses the opportunity to build his own decks and he plays his own style, the guy does understand Hearthstone at a very deep degree. And the guy is really cool. So I think people really underestimate his deck building. People underestimate Trump all the time. And I think he played one of the best in HyperX Invitational. I'm surprised he got fourth. I think it's unfortunate because of the matchup in the semifinals, a couple of the way things RNG rolled. But he could have easily placed top 3, maybe even played RDU in the finals. Who knows?
Yeah,
Didn't
certainly.
I play versus Trump? I was the one that eliminated him from both tournaments, and I can say that he played really. Or was it me? I remember
I don't
played
know.
versus.
Are you his nemesis right now? Maybe Trump hates you.
I hope not. Like he's a really good player. I hope he doesn't hate me. But he was a really good opponent. The mistake was the same as Reynad. He didn't cover for handlock, and you should always cover for almost all the decks, if not all the decks. Of course, you cannot cover against aggro paladin sometimes, or other unknown decks. But versus things like handlock, zoo, you have to always have a cover because there might be someone like me that can play anything is good and can just come and destroy you just because you don't cover against one specific deck. And if I find that weakness, well, before banning format, it was really easy to counter somebody. Every setup of 3 or 4 decks had a counter. But now with ban, you can cover yourself for the whole format, in my opinion. And that's good and bad at the same time.
Okay, that's actually a great segue perfectly into the next topic because I think we've talked a little about the tournaments enough. Actually, well, this goes straight into another tournament topic, which goes into the ban system. So real quick, another tournament that was going on last weekend during the same time as the HyperX Invitational was the Sunshine Open, hosted by life coach and Chanman, and it was an open bracket where they got to have a lot of fun and basically do a pure open bracket that people have been waiting for with some decent prize and a BlizzCon seed on the line. And in the grand finals, it was Impact from Coast Gaming versus Brian Kibler, a very famous Hall of Famer Magic the Gathering player, in the grand finals. And it was Brian Kibler's first event. So it was a lot of hype surrounding, like, wow, is this guy's going to try to enter Hearthstone for the first time and win the event? Unfortunately not. He fell a little bit short, and Impact was able to, I think, win 4-1 or like 4-0. It was very one-sided, I think, of Impact's side.
It was 4-1. 4-1. He 3-0'd with Zoo, and then he lost Zoo versus Zoo, and then he played Warrior versus Zoo and won 4-1.
Okay, yeah, I caught a little bit of that end point, and I remember seeing Impact with a dominant lead. And then this prompted Brian Gilbert to do a little breakdown of some of his thoughts, and he even blogged about how he thinks the ban system maybe doesn't work very well for Hearthstone because it disincentivizes deck innovation, and that people are going to be punished for coming up with a really cool deck because if people find out that what's really strong, they just ban it and they can just be relying on other meta decks that are kind of coming out throughout the rest of Hearthstone. So this brought up an interesting series of discussions of people saying, well, actually I like the ban system. Or people are like, you know what, maybe the ban system is a little bit too much or restricting. And I want to kind of feel the thoughts of you guys because you brought up the ban system yourself, RDU, so you can go first. Is what Brian says, is there merit to it? And if so, do you agree or disagree?
I definitely disagree. Like, if I come up with an interesting deck that is really good and I play it in a tournament, I will be really grateful if they ban that over, let's say, Hunter, and I will be able to play my most OP deck at the moment. For example, at IM Shenzhen, I came up with that. It was not my deck. I just took a deck and changed some cards. Well, I played that Warrior, and I got it banned in like 2 sets, and I was really happy because I could play my Miracle Rogue, which I was really happy to play because it was the best deck at that moment. So I think that if you come up with an interesting deck and you get the ban out of it, you tank a ban. That's the term I use. It's enough. Like, it's perfect for me if I come up with a good deck and get it banned.
What about the idea that you ban cards and not decks? Because they feel like maybe it's a little bit too overarching, restricting to ban certain classes. Because, say, for example, Paladin gets really popular and way too strong. People start banning Paladin. But then Paladin's one of those classes where it has one of the most unique ways you can innovate, right? Like, Dark Wanyx plays like a Divine Shield Paladin, or then there's Heladins, and then there's aggro Paladins like Shakadin, and then people feel like you kind of take out a big part of the metagame. People are saying, what if you have the idea of banning cards? Do you think this works, Gnimsh, if you can kind of restrict the card pool like they do in other games?
I don't think it will work. And by the way, I think it was super funny when you said that this was the first tournament Brian Kibler played. It was in fact his first Hearthstone tournament, but the guy has like, well, he's playing his whole life. And
I meant Hearthstone. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. No worries. Basically, the thing is like the overall discussion about the ban system being good and bad is a difference kind of like in mentality because right now in Hearthstone we are used to having a lot of decks, and every tournament we bring like 5, 6, 7, even 9. We even build decks on the spots with the ESGN format, the team ace match. So we are prepared and we are used to having a lot of decks and using the strategies as well with those decks. And Magic players are really used to having only one deck. So each tournament they prepare only one deck of 60 or 61 cards. They have a sideboard of 15 cards. Same thing in World of Warcraft card game. And you just bring this one deck and you play it for the whole like weekend. Only one deck. No, you can't change it. So they are used to that. So then they go to Hearthstone and they are really surprised, like, hey, I can bring 5 decks. The decks have a smaller card pool. And what if because in Magic and in Warcraft, it both happened that there's this player who was really creative and the team, they find a deck, they test it. And then like 10 people is playing the same deck out of like 400 or 1000, and they just destroy the tournament because they found this deck which is like a silver bullet. It happened in Warcraft before. There was like Team Batao who designed a funny Easter egg deck which was actually legal. Only he was able to actually predict what the deck's doing, and he just won the NA champs. So they want something like this, which really gives an edge to the creative people. But I agree with RDU, and I kind of agree with Brian Kibler as well. So it does kill this possibility. It's I know it's like on an edge. So basically, the ban system is kind of killing this creative input, because if you have only one deck which is creative, the opponent can just ban it. If they feel like, hey, this class seems fishy, I'll ban it. And after the first round, it's possible that all the people know all your decks, so they will ban it anyway. But still, I prefer what RDU said. So you want to you bring this creative deck, but still you have the strategy, and the other decks you bring are also good. So it's kind of like, if this deck is too good, the people will ban it, and then you will be able to use your other decks. Also, it's possible to actually hide your deck. And the thing is, like, at the DreamHack, Ecop was playing this token druid, and he had the Backspace Rogue. So he was basically hiding the Backspace Rogue because he was able to 3-0 his opponents, and then his Rogue was kind of hidden, so people didn't know what to expect. So if you bring a new deck to a like top 8 format, if you are able to change your decks, or and if like 8-player tournament, and if you have really something really creative, you can try to hide it, because your opponent won't know the deck until you play it. And also we have this idea of a secret deck that's, or like in the VGVN we have top best of 7 in the final, in the top 4, right? Yeah, top 4 is best of 7. So people can bring another extra deck. So if this is the deck that's actually surprising and creative, they can use it to their advantage. So in ban format, it's not completely lost, but I feel like the Hearthstone tournament format is completely a different animal than the Magic one. And RDU is also a person who actually proves that, because every tournament RDU applies a different strategy based on the decks. So like HyperX tournament, RDU is banning Hunter every time, and he has decks that are good in a metagame without Hunter. And then Heart of Cards, no, it was like the House of Cards.
Heroes of Cards.
House
of Cards is the TV
House
series.
of Cards, yeah.
Heroes of Cards.
It's a really good
original.
TV series, by the way.
Okay, good.
One of
You're
my
right,
favorite.
Right. So Heroes of Cards, RDU is flipping his strategy again, and every deck is actually countering Hunter, so he's never banning Hunter. So how do you prepare against this guy? It's like he's winning with strategy and he's deck building, and even if there is a silver bullet, he can still like apply the strategy and win the tournaments. So I think like our ban format is actually pretty cool, and I'm sure like Blizzard is also pretty happy with the format, and actually Mike confirmed on Value Town that they are in fact happy with the ban format, and it seems good.
So you're saying that you can't really just take the formats from Magic the Gathering or WoW TCG or whatever, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever you come from, Legend of the Five Rings. You can't just plug it in, because people are saying like, sideboarding. What happens if you play one class multiple times? And, unfortunately, sometimes your deck just gets the bad draw. You're playing Control Warrior and your opening hand is Alexstrasza, Grommash, Ragnaros, or, maybe you draw only spells and Miracle Rogue. It happens. Brian Clipper also brought up this point too, that the class switching format, which was originally introduced in BlizzCon show matches, was to highlight variety, but he feels like maybe you can have an element of one deck / sideboarding. You don't think that works either in Hearthstone? Because people haven't really tried it. No one's been willing to experiment it. Everyone's going with the tried and true. Do you feel like there's any merit to this discussion? RDU?
I think with such a limited card pool, you cannot really make the Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic or Warcraft format with only one deck and sideboard. I don't think there are enough cards that are used only for sideboard. Like I know that in Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, you have a large amount of cards that are only used for sideboarding. They are useless in rest, and that's why people play them in tournaments. And most of the people that play Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments dislike the fact that you can only play one deck and sideboard, because it happens a lot of times that people only play one deck, like the same deck. It's only mirror match, and only sideboard matters. if you like that kind of format, if you would like to see only Hunter versus Hunter or Miracle versus Miracle with sideboarding, I wouldn't like to play in such a format with only one deck, because people will always choose the best deck at the time. Okay, of course, you can say something like you can choose only one deck, but that is not Hunter and not something else. But that would cut a lot from the format. And as I said, you don't have that many sideboard cards in Hearthstone. So I don't think that is a reliable format in this type of game.
Okay, so are you saying that you can't really do it well because if you implement a ban, then you restrict the classes and it kind of takes away the purpose of playing one deck. But then if you allow them to play only one class, then it's pretty much just going to be boring, stale Miracle versus Hunter and vice versa. It's actually like a weird rock paper scissors in that department. Gnimsh, do you agree with him?
Yeah, I agree. It's like on Reddit, from time to time we have those topics popping up with Magic players discussing the things like, hey, we just want to play one deck and we want sideboard, and I'm starting to read them, and then like halfway through with the essays on how like one deck is better, I just stop reading it because it seems like those people really don't understand how the metagame works in Hearthstone. So I totally agree with RDU with the one deck formats in Hearthstone right now. Like today, we would have Hunter Wars. There would be no reason not to play Hunter. If people try being creative, I don't think there is enough room with the cards we have to be creative to play against Hunter. And I'm not even sure if you're able to actually create a full anti-Hunter counter. It will be still better to actually play Hunter because Hunter is the best counter to Hunter, kind of, with flares and stuff. So it will be just boring to watch. And as still, and people complain that we have the best of 5, best of 7 format with 5 decks, and people complain, oh, this is the same decks all the time. And with one deck format, it will be just one deck or maybe 2 or 3, and that's it. And also the sideboard thing is that we have a lot of strong sideboard cards in Hearthstone. We have the Black Knight, we have the BGH, we have Harrison Jones, and it will hurt a lot some of the classes. It's like Warrior might be unplayable because you just counter all the equipment things. Handlock might start being unplayable as well. If people actually start sideboarding Silence, it will be also pretty weird because it's like, let's say you have 6 cards for like Magic has like 60 card deck, 15 card sideboard. So let's say Hearthstone will be 30 to 7. And with 7 cards, you can play those weird cards that actually never see play because they're too specific and too conditional. But with sideboard, you can say, hey, I will have all those silence cards in my sideboard because when they play something that silence is good, I will just play it. So the first game without sideboard will be standard as we know it, a cool experience with all the things. But then with sideboard, it will be a mess. Also, with sideboard, you won't have to play all those sideboard cards in your deck. So this will make the decks a bit stronger. And well, it's something that's worth considering. But like out of my head, I don't like it because then like there will be no BGH, no Black Knight. The decks will be super strong. Maybe it will go into like more aggro-oriented metagame. So yeah, it's hard. It's actually a totally different metagame. If we like remove the sideboard cards from the decks and then add them to the sideboard and also use those cards that never see play, some decks might disappear.
You know, I think you bring up a good point. Is that to kind of take away from this, that if you introduce one deck plus sideboarding, the strongest deck might even get stronger because then they can even refine it more. Like if Hunter knows that it doesn't have to play Hunter, it can take out flares and then use those 2 slots for something else. Strife kind of mentioned this, that you can get away with if you know you're banning Hunter, you can always play your Hunter without flares in that department, right? Unless you're afraid of Secrets Mage or something. And that frees you up to actually make this even more of a refined deck that is even more egregiously imbalanced that people feel like needs to be banned or removed. So people sometimes don't know what they're asking for. But at the same time, I kind of identify with the sentiment that I feel like tournament organizers are a little bit... they're net decking other tournament formats, right? They're just copying like, okay, 8-man invitational, double elimination or single elimination, and then best of 7 grand finals. It's like, cool story, bro. But I think card games are really cool because of different formats introduced. One thing that I've been telling people about is that there's a Japanese tournament. There's a circuit that goes around. I'm not sure if it's like really big, but I've seen a couple of streams / pictures and recaps, is that they do Swiss rounds, but they do two formats. They do like a constructed and then do like a limited Swiss round. So like one is like normal play, like you normally play Swiss, and another round it's like, well, they play it, but now you can't use like these legendary cards that are kind of neutral across the board, and you can't use like specific, really powerful unanimous cards across the like Azure Drake at the time, right? Like no one could use Azure Drake or something. And then they have like two separate rounds, and then they have like a final single elimination round number 3 that's like the top ranking players, and they keep going. I'm not saying this is the best format, but I'm saying people should be willing to experiment with these kinds of things because it forces players to think more than just, well, you know, Miracle Rogue is good against Hunter, but then Handlock's good against Miracle Rogue, and Hunter's good against Handlock, and this weird wheel that keeps rotating. And I'm just saying, I'm encouraging people to think outside the box and dare to be different. And I think that's my final point. I don't know if you guys want to continue on this discussion, but I'm kind of ready to move on.
Yeah, I would love to comment on that. But before that, RDU, do you have any comments about the current format, the tournament formats that we are using, and something maybe that you have an idea that might be cool to watch or like to play in?
Well, I like the band format, but I would like to see more Swiss tournaments, and I would like to see more open tournaments like Sunshine Open. I would have gladly played that if it wasn't at the same time as well as HyperX Invitational, because I like this kind of formats, and it encourages people from the community to play and to get a chance to be pro. That's what everybody likes and everybody dreams of. And yeah, they should make more tournaments like that. I think the best tournament format, in my opinion, is like big qualifiers for 50% of the people, and that qualifiers are like Swiss and then a cut for top 8, and then they play double elimination, and 50% qualify. I mean, actually that 8 can qualify too. I don't really know, but 50% qualified, 50% invited based on good performance, and afterwards they should play. I think double elimination is the best. Even though I had a big disadvantage in the finals, and it can be unpleasant to watch for the viewers if there is like an underdog story where somebody like me comes from the loser bracket and wins everything. It's really enjoyable, and I think double elimination is best for the players, but always to cut out a big number of players until you remain with a little number.
I think that at some point we will grow, like the Hearthstone community and the Hearthstone scene will grow to have the Swiss with no invites. I guess it's a possibility.
I don't think people will want to watch that. I don't think they will have a lot of viewers and they will come back to Invitational. I think 50-50 is okay with invited and qualifiers. They can, of course, do like show the Swiss games of famous players, but if that famous players lose, like it happened at DreamHack Bucharest, they will lose viewers.
But
and
in
that's really
Bucharest, so
important.
we had famous players in the top 8, even though it's the thing is like the best players should always make it. And when you make a tournament, for example, for 500 people sign up, and you have those pros inside, you basically don't have like just 4 pros. You have like 30 of them out of 500 people. So in the top 8, in like a rule in Magic as well, it's like you will have at least 4 pro players, and you will have 4 players who are just playing because they are good and they were not known. Maybe like 3 of them and 1 lucky player who just played his first tournament and he got lucky. So basically, in those formats, actually the best players come on top.
Yeah,
and
I said that too a lot of times on I don't know if on Reddit but I said my public opinion on this. Like if you host a lot of tournaments, even open or whatever, still some pro players will win it. Like Impact won the 2000 and plus people Sunshine Open. I can win a Zotac. If you watch, for example, the Zotac grid, almost all the time big players win it, and that players that are not known, they will become known. So most of the time, big players win big cups or just cups with open brackets.
Yeah, and again, people forget that RDU wasn't a big name at the even at the release of Hearthstone itself back in April. People still didn't really know him at all until he was able to kind of come on and show this kind of consistency. So it's a good example. Just work hard, and you'll get there. So, and we've come full circle on that discussion. I want to discuss one more thing before we start going to the final portion of the show, which is the Q&A and some of the community shoutouts. I want to take this time to talk a little bit about Hunter itself, because it feels like everyone's talking about bans and systems and whatnot, but in terms of talking about the metagame itself, I want to present one question: should hunters be nerfed or changed somehow? Maybe not necessarily nerfed, but you can kind of change it so that way it's still powerful, but at least it's not easy rewarded for some cards like Hunter's Mark slash Buzzard and Unleash the Hounds. Do you guys agree with any of the sentiments going around that Hunter's too strong, or do you feel like it's okay? There's ways to beat it, and there's some people proposing some changes, but that'll come later in discussion. RDU, why don't you lead off discussions?
Uh, I showed in Heroes of Cards that you don't necessarily need to ban Hunter to win a tournament, but I still think Hunter is a little bit too strong. But maybe we should let the meta like 1, 2, 3 weeks to settle a little bit, and then we can say if Hunter is OP or not. I don't want to unleash at 4, for example. That would be too much. Maybe a little nerf on Buzzard, just to slow down the rate of drawing cards. I think that is the biggest problem of Hunters. And that's why I don't think a class is overpowered. Like people all the time complain on Reddit, oh my god, Miracle Rogue too good. Oh my god, Hunter too good. Oh my god, Handlock too good. Oh my god. They will always have something to say it's overpowered. And it's best to let it settle a little bit, stay calm, find a counter, play that counter, win, easy. Like if you saw, Colento got #1 on ladder playing a counter to Hunter. So if everybody starts playing counters to Hunter, they will win versus the people that play Hunter, which are the majority. And then when that deck becomes popular, people will say, "Oh my god, that is OP," and people will find a counter for that, and the meta moves on like that.
Cool, cool. I agree with a lot of your sentiments, but I'm gonna let Gnimsh kind of follow up on your points here.
I have like one significant change that I'd like to see in Hunter. I'd like Sylvanas Windrunner to be a Hunter hero, like before she became a Forsaken. That would be super cool.
God. For the lore, because it fits the Warcraft universe.
Yeah, definitely. Just change the Rexor. Rexor is getting all the hate, and if we would play Sylvanas as a Hunter hero before she became a Forsaken, that would be so cool. But basically, I agree with RDU. I feel like the meta game is still stabilizing, and we'll always have a flavor of the month class. So ladder is really kind of like boosting the hate because all the people just take Hunter because it's a good class. It's a very versatile class, and I'm not sure. It's Hunter right now seems really stable with tracking, with Buzzard, with all the removal cards that are super cheap. Maybe Hunter's Mark is actually a problem. Maybe tracking is a problem. It's really hard to say because Buzzard seems like an obvious card because you just draw cards and refill your hand all the time, but it's actually easy to play around it. Hunter's Mark is a card that you really can't play around. Like the only card that counters Hunter's Mark is the Spectral Knight right now, which is a great card. But still, Hunter's Mark is just for 0 mana, so I can still play my high main and I can still remove your big minion that you played with my 0 Hunter's Mark and some minion. Also, tracking is, I feel, giving Hunter too much quality with regards to the card he gets, and thinning the deck so that you can draw into better cards with Buzzard. I mean, not necessarily better, but the thing is, like, after playing double tracking, I have 6 less cards in my deck. So when I do Buzzard, I can quickly do math and have better calls of the cards I have still in my deck, and a better chances to draw them instead of my opponent who has like more cards and more randomness to the cards he will draw. So definitely Hunter has everything. Maybe Flare is also a problem, kind of, because Flare's the only way in the game to counter secrets, and it's countering some of the decks. So I guess I'm kind of saying that Hunter might be. Oh my god!
There's nothing that you. I think the only card you haven't complained about is Gladiator's Longbow and King Crush. Those are the only 2 cards of Hunter you haven't kind of addressed so far.
Did you say about Unleash?
No,
what do you think about Unleash?
Oh, Unleash is fine. It was. Unleash is actually a pretty good card. Like, I like the design. I like it at 3 mana as well. The problem with Unleash is the Buzzard, but still the combo is fine. I feel like Flare, tracking, and what was the last card and the Hunter's Mark. Those cards might be the combination of all those cards giving Hunter a lot of flexibility. So I don't know. It's actually, I'm saying that Hunter might be too good at the moment and too flexible and stuff. So definitely, Blizzard will have to look at the statistics and their analytics that they're running, and if Hunter is too popular, if some cards actually win the game too often, they might nerf something. But how do you even say like if tracking is too good? How do you get it from the numbers? Can you get
Most
it
of
from the
people don't
numbers?
even play tracking.
Oh, then that's a problem. They should.
Like, I know that Hunter is good because it counters almost everything. Like, you have Unleash for aggro decks, you have Hunter's Mark for handlock, you have Deadly Shot for handlock, you have basically answers to anything. You have Flares for secret, you have big monsters. It's just stable overall. It beats everything. That's the problem of Hunter. It counters everything.
What would
So
you suggest RDU to actually change Hunter
Uh,
to still become a viable deck, to not kill it, but to make it less better so that it actually is a standard deck?
that is hard. If I knew the answer, I would be instead of Reals at Blizzard. Well, maybe just the Buzzsack nerf. That's what all I want. Sometimes they draw way too much. Like from 3 cards, they get 10 in the hand, and that's just outrageous.
What if we change Buzzard to draw up to 2 cards when you play it, so that you can draw 2 cards, which is still a cool card, and when you play it with a web spinner, you just draw 1 card and stuff. Like you use it as a normal drawing card, but
Or
it's
not
like kind
allow
of like
you to play, or like low tab, not allow you to play the cards you draw this turn or even the next turn, because sometimes you use all your mana to draw cards and next turn explode on your opponent. Maybe give you a restriction similar to low tab, but to yourself. I don't know. Blizzard designers need to find this out if they think Hunter is too good.
Well, I think Blizzard's shown in the past that they care more about fun mechanics. Like the reason why they nerfed Unleash in the first place was because it prevented people or disincentivized people from playing minions on the board. And the entire interaction of Hearthstone is supposed to be minions on minions, and fighting for board control. And so limiting you to play less minions caused them to nerf it. I'm not sure if maybe they'll nerf Hunter's Mark or whatnot. I do think Buzzard is kind of annoying because if they don't ever draw the combo, there's a lot of times that the Hunter's deck just kind of falls flat. It's kind of like Token Druid sometimes if they don't draw Ancient of Lore and they just don't actually have anything else left after a certain point. So I think there are a lot of problems that make Hunter strong, but you don't want to take away tools because then otherwise Hunter's not fun to play. Like part of the reason why things like Starving Buzzard and Scavenging Hyena and Unleash the Hounds makes it like cool interaction with beast synergy, and you don't want to take away too much, otherwise people feel like Hunter's unplayable. And then you have like a situation where Priest just had cool stuff but nothing else they could really do because everything was kind of weak. So
what about Steady Shot, the hero power? Because it's kind of like just sitting there seems like it doesn't need a nerf, but on the other hand, the Hunter is winning a lot of games because Steady Shot is always there. So they just burst, they deal some damage, and then when their opponent actually stabilizes, they're like, hey, I know, but you have 4 points of health, and I have Steady Shot, so I kill you in 2 turns anyway, if you don't heal or do stuff. So, and also Steady Shot is really consistent, and you can use it on those turns where you have two free mana and just deal 2 damage to face. So it might actually be too powerful, kind of as well.
This is where I'm going to defer to RDU to kind of talk about this.
Well, I think Steady Shot is not that overpowered as people say. I think of the Warlock's hero power being better, but at the same time, Warlock uses its hero power to build a whole deck around the hero power, like Handlock and Zoo. But Hunter uses the hero power just as a plus to make the deck even better and more stable. Like at first, people said Hunter's hero power is the worst, and now people say it's the best. You cannot really know, but sometimes I feel that when playing against Hunters, you just felt like playing against that old mage with 8 mana Pyroblast. At 20 HP, you are, oh my god, I'm already low HP. He will just press hero power, and just beat me. Like, that's what happens when you play Shaman or another class which has no heal, or even Hunter in the mirror match. Like, in the mirror match, if he gets you to like 10 HP, you just lost if he has like 30. Because he can just kill you from hero powers and 1 kill command.
Maybe we should introduce some randomness to the hero power. It's a steady shot, but make it unsteady shot so that you have 50% to actually like deal 2 points of damage to your opponent and 1 point of damage to you.
I don't think that I don't think that more RNGs would be good for this game. It's already enough with Ragnaros and Brawl.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like RNG that's really fun, honestly. The stakes are a little bit too high. Again, you don't want to kind of nerf it so that hunters are not fun to play. You want to change it so that other classes don't feel restricted by it. And this is something that Reels and all of them will be tackling. So if you have any complaints, you know who the man is. You can tweet him at ReelsHS or whatever his Twitter handle is. Definitely send all your complaints over there. I guess it's a really interesting conversation. We can kind of go about it a lot of ways, but I just want to get your thoughts overall on hunters in the current state. So just to kind of wrap this discussion up, RDU, what is, if people are facing like 80% hunter or somewhere around that ballpark on ladder, what is your go-to deck to beat that? Are you playing Miracle? Are you playing Warrior? What are you playing?
Sometimes I'm even playing Hunter myself, but when everybody else is playing Secret Hunter, best deck is like Beast Hunter without any secrets. This is the thing that happened when Life Coach starting popularizing the deck. Colento made a counter to it without the bow, without the traps, just Beast, and it beats in the mirror match, but it loses to Miracle. And Miracle loses to Trap Hunter loses to Beast, Beast loses to Miracle. It's again a triangle, which happens very often in card games, but you cannot avoid that.
So if your deck of choice is a Beast Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Beast Hunter.
Cool. Gnimsh, how would you go about defeating hunters and slaying them on ladder?
Yeah, so basically a lot of players ask me this question: what's the best way to counter the hunter? And I'm always saying, yeah, it's basically hunter. Just play flares. And right now it's like I always like hunter. I like the aggro decks, so I know people hate it, but I really like the deck. It's fun to play. It's super strong, super stable. You always know what to expect. You have a clear way to win the game, and you have those small minions which are cool. You have those synergies. You have the tracking, you have flares, you have 7 high mains, and I definitely like the Beast Hunter as well. I also enjoy the deck that Strifecross playing with traps and Crazed Alchemist. I think it's no, it's a mad scientist. So that definitely is also a cool deck. Like I was even running Snake Trap at some point. It was so funny with the situation that you can put your opponent into with Snake Trap on board and Buzzer, just kind of like trying to force them to attack into it. Like they know it might be a snake trap, but they have to do it because they are not able to actually remove the buzzard with other cards. So it's a cool card as well.
Houndmaster helps there. Like if you have buzzard, snake trap, and you Houndmaster something, he cannot do anything.
Yeah, exactly, and he has to attack into buzzard at some point.
All right, so Hunter is the best answer, Hunter. I think we mutually agree here. I do actually, that was my answer too. I think Strifecrow's Druid deck is actually very good against that current. I have enough mixed taunts, especially if you put up like a taunted Spectral Knight. That is a really hard way for Hunter to deal with. Although earlier, just like an hour before the show, I got it deadly shotted, so I completely pounded my keyboard after that. I was really mad. But in the case where RNGesus isn't against you, Spectral Knight taunted is actually one of the best ways to annoy Hunter right back because they can't use all their stuff to basically cheap shot you out of the game. So I hope we answered some of your questions with this. If you guys have any more questions, we're about to open up the Q&A section of our show to kind of carry us out here. But while you guys submit some of your questions and Gnimsh and RDU look over them, we'll do a little bit of shout outs and things to look forward to. So that way you guys know what's coming up. The first is that tomorrow begins the Video Gamers Voter Network Tournament number 2. It's going to be with Trump, Hyped, Tice, NL, Colento, Amaz, and Reels. So it'll be the last tournament Reels is going to be in before he ships off to Blizzard and they lock him in the ice chamber to test over and over. And then we have 2 qualified players, Sixo that RDU mentioned. It's his second time qualifying, which is quite a feat in itself. And then a new member or a new challenger has appeared. It's Haibara, a guy who got really close in the previous qualifiers, but fell, I think, a couple spots before he was able to qualify through. The tournament will be casted by me and Gnimsh, and we'll be there at 11 p.m. Central European time, right? Is that correct? Gnimsh?
I have... Wait. Can we ask the question again? I was looking at the chat.
What time does VGVN start? It's good. You're doing the right thing. You're looking at questions to field. So.
Okay, so VGVN, like European time, it starts Friday midnight.
Midnight. Okay. So yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern, and then Saturday and Sunday we start at 6 p.m. CET.
Okay, so noon for Eastern Standard Time on the weekends, and then midnight for Friday. So it should be fun. The graphics and overhaul have been the graphics, excuse me, have been completely overhauled, and I heard it's going to be a really fun time. So make sure to show up. Also, we also have some of the cool Funds community stuff that's been going around. If you haven't checked out fun stuff like this guy created Hearthstone as Game Boy graphics. This one's actually a really cool feature. Just want to give a shout out to some of the people who make really cool content. It's just like fun to see how people use some Hearthstone art. And there's also even a person who developed Hearthstone card game or board game in real life. So there's a lot of cool stuff going around. And if you have anything you want to showcase on the show, you can. I'm sorry we don't get to dedicate more time to it, but we've been running a little bit long with discussions.
We should definitely have a fun art section, by the way. That would be so cool. Like people submit fun art to us and like showing it on the show, like getting the best free.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be cool to kind of like have a caption contest or something a little bit of that. There's a lot of people who draw a lot of the Warcraft fan art in general, and so it's cool to see them carry over to Hearthstone.
I have a kind of like an announcement to make because I will be giving out some Warlords of Draenor keys, and I think like fan art contest will be one of them. Like I will have a series of contests to give out the keys to the
cool.
people. So
nice. Well, that's a nice little promotion there for Gnimsh. I think you can follow him on his social media and be able to get access to it. A couple more shout outs before we go to the Q&A. Hearthstone Calendar has been doing a great job to keep track of a lot of the cool stuff, whether it's like some of these online tournaments that people to sign up for. iHeartU also has a calendar too, but cross-reference these guys and make sure you're catching everything, as they are the ones primarily churning out everything, especially for the subreddit. And also a shout out to StrifeGrow, who won 4-3 over Brad in the Deck Wars Season 2. Week number 14, and then the finals will be announced to be September 16th for Deck Wars, and that was a request via Chanman to kind of announce that. All right, so with that, let's go into Q&A. Gnimsh/RDU, do you see any questions that you guys want to start answering?
Gnimsh discuss Savannah High Main. That's something I just picked up. I've seen a couple of questions. Some of them were really long and stuff. So I guess like people are starting to ask the questions now. So we can start with the Savannah High Main. Savannah High Main is a very good card. I guess everybody knows that. The thing is, the stats are pretty good. 11 total stats for 6 mana. The Death Rattle is hard to remove. It has a magical number of 5 health, which is hard to deal with. It gets 2 minions out of it. So it's definitely a very good card. Also a beast with all the Hunter synergies. The card was pretty slow before in a Hunter deck, which was the Beast Hunter, but now with all the sticky minions and all the things you can do before Savannah High Main, it becomes kind of like a win condition that you push and play, and definitely a strong card. I don't feel it needs nerf. I feel like it's designed really well. It's just a good card for its cost, like Sylvanas as well. So yeah, I definitely like. Maybe it should be an epic, but I guess it doesn't matter in Hearthstone because most of the players have all the cards anyway.
Artie, what are you giggling about over there?
Yeah, I laughed when I heard that Savannah should be an epic. I don't think it would influence it that much. Maybe at rank 20 or something, or on Smurf accounts. But if a player really wants the card, he can get it. If he wants it to win a tournament or to play it in ladder.
Sure.
But it's kind of like a balancing tool. Like in normal card games, people used it. Like, oh, it's a common, so it's a good common. It's cool. It's a,
Well, when that card costs like in Yu-Gi-Oh like $300, I think it balances. But in Hearthstone, there's no card that costs $300. If they make like Leroy $300, I don't know. If they made Unleash the Hounds or Pardo Blast $500, I don't think there will be that many people that complained.
Let's make a petition. Blizzard, make Savannah High Main an epic.
Make gadgets on $1,000 if you want to play Miracle.
Gosh, like it takes like 50,000 dust to craft gadgets and auctioneer. That's the way to balance it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, we have some more questions.
Yeah, Skysleep asks, how do you play Shaman versus Hunter? Do you have any opinions on how much the advantage difference between the types of Hunter, like trap versus aggressive versus mid-range?
Well, if you just don't totem up and rush them down, you'll probably win, most likely. Like, if you run a deck with Doomhammer and you get Doomhammer turn 5 or turn 6, and get to attack the hunter, they don't have any heal. And also, you have to not totem unless you feel lucky enough to get the 1/1 or the 0/2 taunt totem. If you don't feel the 50-50 roll, don't totem up all the game. Just play, burst them. Don't trade with anything unless it's a really good trade, or because you have Lightning Storm to clear the board. You have Hex for Savannah Highmane. You have again Doomhammer and Rockbiter finish, maybe Lava Burst. If people saw my game versus Alchemist, this is what I did. I made a misplay turn 2 where I totemed up and I got a heal totem, but he made an even bigger misplay attacking a 4/4 monster into that 0/2 healing useless totem.
His
And it
biggest
ended up
misplay
being
was
good.
not playing Savannah Highmanes.
Well, that Birchers would have destroyed me, and probably I would have lost unless I would have rolled 3 damage on both of them with the Lightning Storm. So I won that RNG.
True.
And then cleared them up with the Doomhammer, taunted, and he had no other way to clear the board. I think his other cards were like Clear Unleash, and he didn't have enough damage because of 4 taunts.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty good games, by the way. And all those players who want to improve, I really recommend watching VODs from those tournaments as well. Because by watching VODs, you can actually improve as well with all those decisions and casting. House of Cards, Heart of Cards, Heroes of Cards tournament casted by Forsen. By the way, Forsen did a good job.
Yeah.
A lot of players praised them for the casting.
Yeah.
So
Or also they can watch my stream if they want to learn. I explain a lot of my tough process, even though some people don't like me talking that much.
There you go. I mean, again, don't listen to those guys. Roger, you're doing great. Next question, UCobb asks, what do you think of Ramp Druid in the current meta? I remember Gara winning DreamHack in the Hunter Heavy meta with his Ramp deck. I guess his question is, does that translate to here in this meta game?
It was a different meta. It was a way different meta. People were not playing this Hunter deck that we play nowadays. They didn't have the web spinners, so you basically had no turn 1 play. You were relying only on the Buzzed Unleash combo to carry you through a Zoo meta and some warriors maybe. You didn't have that stable Hunter that is nowadays with web spinner turn 1, Haunted Creeper, which is a more annoying version of Harvest Golem made for everybody. And guess what? Beast.
Yeah. And people were
That's why
first
Hunters-
mad that the Spectral Spiders weren't beasts. It's like, well, can you even imagine if Blizzard thought that was a good idea?
You just
my
play
God.
that and then Buzzard kill that in anything and get 2 more cards. Why not? It's so balanced. It's already, in my opinion, that card is already too good because it's played in most of the decks. If the monsters it spawns were Beast, we'll see only Hunter, like really only Hunter. Unless Buzzard gets thrown away from the game.
they did nerf Buzzard. It now has 1 health only. That was game
I don't think
changing.
it matters. You just play Buzzard for the card. You don't really care about the body. Your opponent is forced to clear it anyways. Unless you have like 2 or 1 card remaining, like in the same situation as Auctioneer, they have to kill it unless you don't have any deck. If you don't have any cards in your deck remaining, they will just let Buzzard go on, draw your fatigue damage. That
You
happens.
sure? I think it's pretty significant because now they can kill it with Mortal Coil or Whirlwind. And with
Yeah,
2 health, it was
that's
immoral
why-
kind of.
That's why Mortal Coil Zoo is very good versus Hunters. But at the same time, I don't think you play Buzzard for the body. You just play to draw cards and draw into your other big threats.
Okay, makes sense. Frodan.
I mean, I'm looking at questions. Did you want me to follow up on this? Because I pretty much agree. I think the metagame was like Hunter back then didn't have those early game tools. And it matters so much because Hunter's hero power doesn't affect the state of the board. So if they're just stuck hero powering the first few turns, like you had the ability to play Wild Growth or play other minions to kind of take an advantage. And that Unleash nerf actually really hit it hard because Zoo had an extra turn to build up and sneak in like 6 to 8 damage and put them within range of finishing. And also like Miracle was nowhere near as stable as it is now. Miracle was very much gadget stand or bust before they introduced like all those other cards. So it's a different metagame. But Ramp Druid still has its place, right? It still can defeat some decks. But even when I see Ramp Druid, I always feel like Control Warrior just outperforms it.
We saw Tute playing Ramp Druid with great success at the last HyperX tournament.
Yeah, that is true. He did pretty well. He had some pretty sick starts though, right? Like double Wild Growth.
Well,
and then like hit like his entire curve for the rest of the game. It was pretty nasty.
I think it's because of Kel'Thuzad. Like if you play a taunt counter deck, Kel'Thuzad makes it so much better if you draw into it because you can trade your whole board and get them back. And if you have towns on your opponent's turn, he has to kill Kel'Thuzad that he doesn't kill your towns. And of course, he cannot BGH that. We saw the 6 is not 7 thingy. And I think Kel'Thuzad is really good in this meta, especially in druids or warriors.
Or he performs pretty decent in paladin decks too, from what I've seen.
Yeah, with Tyrion. Oh my god, I don't even want to imagine.
Pretty sick. RDU, by the way, a lot of questions are coming in. I don't know if I can pick one specific, but they're kind of worried about you not showing up to BlizzCon. I guess they want more insight as to what you can do about it. Is there any way, is it like a citizenship too? Like, is it possible for you to go live in another country, for example, and then, or is it just like strictly the fact that you're from Romania and there's nothing you can do about it?
I will not go that far, but from what I know, there are people in MYM working to get this over with, so I trust in them.
Are you going to attack Blizzard with lawyers?
No,
Like,
of course not.
destroy them from within and stuff?
No.
No, Blizzard wants to help them too. It's just that sometimes
Yeah.
they can't.
Yeah.
You know?
I have no reason to do that. I like their game, and I don't really care that much about BlizzCon, but I will try to win every other
Come
tournament.
on,
I will try to win
$100,000.
Yeah, that's the only annoying thing. It's such a big prize pool. I have to win it, but I will try to win every other tournament to prove that I'm good. And I hope it resolves, and I hope I will play in the qualifiers. If I play in the qualifiers, it doesn't mean I will get qualified. I will try my best and come up with a nice and interesting strategy, but it doesn't mean I automatically get qualified to BlizzCon.
You just want to have a fair chance of competing.
Yeah, I want to have my chance. I won it like 3 or 4 times. I don't even remember it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's for the players who are actually eligible. It seems weird, but I totally understand. It's the most important tournament this year. It's the World Champs. We will have the World Champion after this tournament, and you being well, arguably the best player in Hearthstone right now, are not able to even participate and have a fair shot at the tournament. So it definitely sucks. And I hope that you will be able to make it, and if not, well, you can still make it to BlizzCon. I hope, like, even if you are not playing,
right?
Yeah, just go there and hang out with people, with the fans, and
well, I would be
players.
jealous, so I would not do that. I will be like, oh my god, I want to be in the finals. I want to win this.
Take Ben Broad hostage and threaten them like, I have to play this tournament.
Yeah, I don't usually like to watch others play. I prefer to play myself, so I'm that kind of a person.
Got you.
Yeah, it's kind of an missed opportunity because I think if you win BlizzCon, you literally double the GDP of Romania. So it'd be kind of a travesty sometimes if you don't have the opportunity to help your country like that.
Shots fired.
A lot of people are, by the way, asking about ways to nerf Hunter. They're talking about, you know, removing the draw from Flare, changing Unleash to Hounds, making Hunter's Mark. I think we kind of summarized in general and kind of like centralized it to a couple of things, whether it's things like tracking / Hunter's Mark / Buzzard. But regardless of it, I think Blizzard is still going to be really cautious. So I hope we kind of answered the general gist of how to handle Hunters. The most important thing is not necessarily how to nerf Hunters right now, but to play things that are good against it, whether it's your own specific tailored Hunter deck or like Warrior or even the fast druid that Strifeco has introduced.
Last thing about Hunter that's really funny for me as the lore nerd and geek and stuff. It's in World of Warcraft, like almost nobody knew Rexxar, like who Rexxar is, what he did. Like he was this character in the shadows. Like even in Warcraft 3, Rexxar was the main character for the additional missions that you got, and a lot of people didn't even complete it. And in here in Hearthstone, Rexxar is he's the guy. Like everybody hates him.
Well, Gnimsh, I didn't play. I don't know the lore, but I played Dota and I know Rexxar from Dota.
Oh, cool.
I know he was pretty cool there. Like he had a nice ultimate, like a big roar, and he had the spell with throwing axes. It was pretty cool to play Rexxar in Dota.
It's funny how Rexxar couldn't get popular in World of Warcraft, so he went to Dota. He got popular in Dota and then came back to Hearthstone.
That's funny. That's funny. Do you guys see any more questions? I think we can take a couple more before we wrap up the show.
RDU, when will you stream? Some people asked me that on chat. I don't know. I think I can stream tomorrow maybe if I get some time, and if I find a spot where I can stream in my time schedule. Like a lot of times I want to stream and I look at the streamers that are online and I see a Moz with like 60k viewers. I say, okay, I will not stream. I have no chance to get at least 1k. So I better not stream.
Ah,
Well, what
maybe
you
if a
should is
Moss
like you
sends
start,
it, like if he sends his viewers your way, then maybe.
or you start streaming and they are like, "Oh my god, it's RDU. Let's watch RDU."
That will not happen. Like it's already a monopoly or something like that. I don't know how to call it, but I cannot stream at the same time as the big streamers. So I need to find a spot. I don't know, either in the night or in the morning. I still need to configure my time schedule to be better.
Have you considered streaming other games as well? Maybe that will be the way.
I'm not that good in other games. Like I play League of
Don't
Legends.
poison his mind, Gnimsh. He's one of the few who still
You
works
want-
hard.
You want me out of Hearthstone, don't you?
Oh yes, that's
Well,
the real
I
reason why
wouldn't say
Gnimsh
that.
invited
Shots
you on.
fired.
Sick.
Let's stream some Heroes of the Storm.
Cool. Tantrum, by the way, he asks, what do you think about Reincarnation Shaman? Does it have a future in the current meta?
I played that on my stream. I really thought it's good and consistent, but it turned up to be not that consistent and not that good. Like it was one of my favorite decks when I just saw the card. I was like, oh my god, this deck will work. But that deck had 0 card draw, so I added Gnimsh Inventories, and it still didn't work out as I expected because it relied on too many combos. I was thinking of Leroy Reincarnation and I forgot the name of the other card, but you had 2 ways of possibly dealing 18 damage to your opponent, and it didn't work as I wanted to.
So you don't think it work? You think it's a gimmick at the moment, right?
Maybe you can play 1 Reincarnation and get a stable Shaman, but I still would play Shaman without that. It's like, yeah, as you said, a very situational card.
Okay. Gnimsh, do you have any opinions? Have you tried it out?
I haven't played Reincarnation that much. It's not sure. Not many thoughts on that. It seems like a gimmick, but I think it's because of the hunters. That Shaman is actually dying out, kind of. It's Hunter is really good versus Shaman. We talked about it. So right now it's a cool card, but the metagame has to change for the card to actually shine, because with all the hunters all around, it's just a tough card to play. Maybe in the tournament format with King of the Hill, if Handlock becomes more popular, if you ban hunters, then maybe Shaman will have a new build and a new chance to actually shine. But for now, it's kind of like a tier 3 class.
Oh, don't sleep on Shaman.
I think that you can beat Handlock even without Reincarnate. You just need Lava Burst.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Reincarnate is better versus things like Warrior. So if Warrior becomes meta, playing Shaman with Reincarnate might be a thing. But I'm not sure. We need to let the meta evolve a little bit, and we'll see what the decks people come out with. Like Strifeco did with that Druid. Nobody expected Shade of Nox from us in a token Druid, did they?
Well, him and Brian Clipper did that a little bit, but then Strifeco is now refining it even more. So it's kind of cool to see people kind of building on those concepts. But I think you bring up a good point. Cheddin asks, Frodan, what's going on with KitKats? You announced him for Tempo Storm, and then you stopped streaming and going to tournaments. KitKats is playing in a few tournaments. It's just that he took some time off away from Hearthstone to kind of explore and travel and do some stuff, personal life stuff. And then he's still helping out the team, practicing and whatnot. It's just that he's not an extremely active member at the moment, but you'll see him around in future tournaments. And then you're going to be like, oh, there he was the whole time. So that's what it is.
KitKats brawl, best brawl.
Yeah, it's funny that his legacy still lives on. And at this stage, I think everyone kind of realizes that Armor Smith doesn't actually win brawls.
It does sometimes. In Heroes of the Cards, Masan won an awesome brawl with Armor Smith. Like, I think it was 1 on 4, yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah, but was snapping it up.
KitKats is still alive, so don't worry, guys. We didn't kill him. We didn't take, we didn't Tempo Storm him, and then all of a sudden he disappeared. He's still around.
There is a question about Leroy. Leroy being OP as a card. So what do you guys think about it?
It's OP if you draw it at the right time when your opponent, when you can kill your opponent. It depends. Like in Miracle, you build it around Leo and Gadgetson, but you can also build some rush decks like Hunter. But sometimes, for example, in Zoo, he's inconsistent, and in most of the decks, he lost some play. I don't know about Leroy. I think he's balanced at the moment.
I just don't like the synergies that is introduced with buffing and faceless. That's the only thing I don't like about Leroy. I think his drawback is actually very interesting sometimes, just because of like knife juggler sometimes against Zoo. It's just hilarious if he kills himself. Like you just can't really write that stuff. I really hate power overwhelming and then faceless, or even for like a while, like when you ran other things in Leroy and just kind of have these super 20 damage bursts out of nowhere. Like that's pretty BS in my opinion. So that's the only thing that I feel like Leroy really suffers from. Other than that, I think you can't really nerf him without making him useless and then picking up like another alternative like Arcane Golem or another Charger. So, and if people think Leroy's bad, I'm sure there's going to be other cards that have charge that Blizzard introduces that people are going to be complaining about as well.
Yeah, certainly. I actually like the card as it is because the 6 attack charge is kind of like a standard thing in card games. In Magic, there was this Ball Lightning card. Maybe if Leroy is actually destroyed after the turn he attacks, so like you play Leroy, you have the same thing, but he's being destroyed after it's attacked. It won't change much because there are those different synergies. Like Miracle Rogue uses Leroy with Shadow Step to a great advantage. Then Warlock can use the Power Overwhelming Faces combo. And Hunter is using the drawback, the tokens, to his advantage because he's able to unleash with more creatures. So it will be really hard to balance the card. But for the Zoo, as you said, it's the card is kind of like plus 2 attack to something. It's like a lot of people said like the Dark Iron Dwarf is better than Leroy in Zoo because it gives plus 2 attack, so something can still attack for 6, and you get a 4/4 body. So I feel that the card is fine. It seems OP because a lot of games are being lost to Leroy being drawn, but with the current card pool, I think the card is fine.
All right, cool. I think we have time for one quick question. Dem Saxo asked, "Do you feel the game needs more cards even after next Rammus?" And I think the question to that, or the answer to that, is always yes. It doesn't even matter if it's next Rammus. Just more cards in general, without flooding it. Right? You don't want too many useless like vanilla, like 2 mana for 2/2 and nothing else, no synergies, no nothing. Cards for the sake of cards feel boring, and that's what next Rammus was cool. It was like all 30 of these cards do something unique and introduce like a type of synergy and effect that impacts the metagame. Because if you look at most decks, it seems like a good portion of them are next Rammus now, like 30 to 40% of it at least. And it feels like it's made a really big impact. So I think the answer to that, from me at least, is always yes. Always more cards. What about you guys?
Yeah, I would definitely agree in here. It's the card games and the concept of card games being played is that you always have to release new cards. And if you don't release new cards, the card game dies because the metagame is figured out and people stop playing it. So with the new sets, and people would expect new cards coming out from time to time so that the game is being like refreshed, kind of. We have new ideas, new concepts, new things to be hyped about, new things to be excited about. And also it's a way to monetize the game because Hearthstone is free to play, and Blizzard wants to monetize long term. They want to have more stuff and make the game more deep, more fun. And so definitely we need more cards at some point. The only question is how often. Like, what's the best release schedule and the release window? Is it 3 months like in Magic and Warcraft? Is it 6 months because it's a digital card game? Is it 9 months? Like, what will be the release schedule? And Blizzard has to figure it out right now because they released the game this year. They released the first kind of like an expansion with 30 cards, and now it will be a new thing every couple of months, and people will just expect it to happen.
All right, RDU?
I agree with Nish almost completely. There is one little thing I don't agree with him. He said card games need new cards. There is one popular card game, poker, that never got new cards and is still the most played game. But of course, trading card games like Magic and Hearthstone need new content to keep users there and give new opportunities to deck builders. Like games where you build your own deck and you don't play like poker with a set of cards, you really need more content to be added monthly or like 3 months or something like that, like a set like Magic gets or Yu-Gi-Oh.
Fun fact, poker actually has a metagame.
I didn't know that.
They
That's
actually have a
interesting.
metagame. It's
They have a meta game.
it's changing with the trends. It's like a couple of years ago there was a different meta game and different sets of cards were played differently, and now it changed, and you have to
It's
get back to get the
it's
meta
like
game.
aggressive or defensive. That kind
Yeah,
of.
kind of. It's like it's
Okay.
some spots you will not never play it, like aces, and then it really changes how you play. But
Yeah.
it's
Ace is
a fun thing. It's like no new cards, but still the metagame changes.
double ace to OP. It needs to be nerfed.
Yeah.
and
Things to come.
royal flush.
Okay.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's it. Unless you guys have any last things, or last questions you want to answer. If not, let's start doing our final shout outs and thank yous because we are coming up on the end of the show here. So, Gnimsh, why don't you start off?
I was just looking if there's any question that's being spammed. But no, so I
Okay.
guess we can finish. So my shoutouts will go to the Cloud9 team and to all our sponsors, Logitech, HyperX, Alienware, Low Class, Air4 Reserve, Sidequick, and whoever else we have. Thank you for sponsoring us. And obviously to Simon, who's doing the production side of Turn2 show, doing great job with all the overlays and fun things with House of Cards and other stuff. Shout out to RDU for winning all the tournaments and disproving the fact that Hearthstone is a random game with one person winning everything with strategy and skill. I don't think it's that random. And shout out to Frodan for hosting today's episode. Thank you. You did a great job. You worked on the notes. So I was kind of able to just sleep during the day and wake up for a ready show. So it was pretty cool. And that's it from my side.
Sounds good. Radu?
Big shout out to you guys for hosting this awesome show and inviting me in. You're really the best. I really loved your commentary, Frodan and Gnimsh. I think you two and Frodan plus Admirable make the best casters. Also, big shout out to my team, Meteor Makers. And the biggest shout out I have for MOM Skip, the person I prepared the most with for the last tournament. And also shout out to Impact from Team Coast.
Awesome. Cool. By the way, guys, RDU does do coaching, as you kind of see on stream with iHeartU.com. Just go to /coaching, and you can get a coupon code for 10% off, which is usually listed on the overlay. There's also a new Dota 2 site that's coming out. That's a sister site for iHeartU. It's fountaindive.com. And there's a first podcast called True Sight that went live last night with Mott, Kotl Guy, What Is Hip, and they had some guys from the Navi US team, Korok, formerly from Liquid and now on Navi. And they even had Toby Wan call in. So if you're interested in Dota 2, you can go check that out. Meanwhile, also in Hearthstone land, the next tabletop episode will be next Thursday at 1 p.m. with Admirable, so make sure to check that out. And also, the episode for this Turn2, number 34, will be posted later today. And don't forget the King of the Hill, which is 6-0 versus Skip, that you just kind of mentioned. They'll be playing on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As for my shout-outs, big shout-out to Tempo Storm, #1 team in Hearthstone. No offense to you two. Definitely check out all the cool content and tempostorm.com, and we'll be doing more stuff with our website. Also, shout-out to the VGVN tournament that Gnimsh and I will be casting. I know the Liquid Hearth guys put a ton of work, and as well as the One Nation of Gamers people. So make sure to check it out tomorrow at midnight for Europe and 6 p.m. for USA Eastern Time. We're done here. Make sure again to click the follow button on the Twitch channel and to make sure to get all the updates of when we're streaming for all stuff here with iHeartU's Hearthstone site. Other than that, this has been Turn2 episode number 34 with Frodan, Gnimsh, and RDU. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.